12:05 p.m. on the 6th of October, 220 Egyptian aircrafts crossed the Suez Canal at low height to bombard the Israeli targets in Sinai, the very strike that achieved its target. At the very same time, more than 2,000 artillery of different types along the front bombarded Israeli points on the eastern front of the Suez Canal in Sinai. Simultaneously, the Egyptian Second Army Forces and the Third Army Forces crossed the canal successfully by different kinds of rubber boats and wooden boats. The Egyptian Engineering Corps succeeded to build the first heavy bridge, make several passages in the dust shield along the front, and also build heavy and light bridges and multiple ferry boats. Israeli air forces failed to destroy the Egyptian air defense network, which used all kinds of SAM missiles efficiently and attacked many Israeli aircraft. As a result of that collaborative efforts, Barlev Line fell and Egypt's army crossed the canal and ensured a very important landslide victory. Because the Egyptian Armed Forces victory in 1973 war, the Egyptian Air Force has become a model example to be followed by the arts of war. And today's celebration is held at the Air Force Museum, which is one of Egypt's mind-blowing museums located in Al-Maza military base. A tour through outside and inside of the museum takes the visitors back to 1973 October War by displaying helicopters and aircrafts of the era, as you can see behind me. We're also honored to have with us one of the veterans who witnessed and took part in the October War to elicit the stories and tell us the stories that we don't know. We're all eager to hear the veteran what the veteran will tell us. We'd like to welcome our guest for today, Major General Magdiddin Refaat, Air Force veteran. Major General Magdiddin Refaat is one of October War veterans, and he will help us shed light on Egypt's force contribution in October victory, the victory that the Egyptian state is securing until this very today. We're very much honored to have you with us, General Magdi. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Zahra.
Now, we'd like to start by the early beginning, how you joined the Army Force and how you joined the Air Forces in the beginning.
First of all, I would like to welcome all the audience and outside Egypt and inside Egypt. And I have to remember our colleagues were killed in action on different wars. Rest in peace, all of them, and mercy of God on them. God bless them all. I joined the Egyptian Air Force in Academy in 1st of October 1964. I was because I was fond of how to fly the machine. I wanted to fly a machine. It was my dream. Then I graduated in 1st of June 1967, just a few days before the war, 1967 war. And then all of a sudden we joined the combat formation, and we start our training under the pressure of the enemy,
Yes.
which is much different between being trained in peacetime or during the war.
Wasn't that difficult for you, Mr. General? Because you told me you were just graduating, fresh graduates, and joining a war, a very important war, actually. So
It was a hard time. It was a very hard time for us and for our leaders. And we have so many losses, but in fact we have also in attrition war some of big victories against the enemy. And it's our land. We have the right to do this. We have a keen desire to regain our dignity, regain our honor during these days.
Of course.
It's a hard time, but we spent 2 years in attrition war, which is the beginning or the preparation for October War.
Of course. General Magdidin, today marks the 46th anniversary of the 1973 October War. The dramatic events profoundly alerted the course of the Middle East politics. Now, we all are eager to know the crucial role of the air forces in October War.
Being among the Egyptian Air Force fighters, we spent the attrition war 2 years and some months in attrition or real fight, and then we have the ceasefire. Then we start to prepare ourselves, and nobody knows where the war will begin, which it was began from our side to attack and regain our dignity once more. In these 6 years, we were in a very hard pressure on ourselves and our morale. And then, as long as we have the orders to launch our strike against, then we just take off and went into the war. To start the war at an Air Force, I consider it the first echelon of the armed force, because we start,
You attack, as you
we
just told
attack.
us, yes.
We are the first echelon of the aerial war.
So
Then
you prepare for the other forces
we prepare for the other forces, or to give them. We are cooperate with the other forces. We don't fight alone.
Yes,
We
of
cooperate with
course.
them, and then we did with the artillery, just put the enemy under pressure to give the chance to our land forces to cross the Suez Canal and do the big victory, which they did. And then we continue. It's not only the first strike. We kept flying and do strikes in different areas among the whole war.
But was it hard for you? I mean, 6 years, as you told me, between 1967 and 1973. Were you prepared to go through a war? How did you feel back then? Your morale. You're just coming out of a war that Egypt lost. So how did you feel about
Let me
it?
tell you something, Hala. When you have the right to regain and take back your land and take back your dignity and take back, give the chance to our forces to do this, you are eager to do. You are very pleased to do this. You have a very high morale. We have a very high morale, and morale. One of the concepts we consider it in the fighters to do, to have to attack the others. Maybe you have two machines or two fighters against each other. One with low morale, with one with the high morale. Maybe the one with high morale have a less capacity or a slower machine, but with high morale, he can do a lot.
And that's what happened in
That's what happened
1973.
when we consider the MiG-21. If we consider it one, the Phantom is three, and
And the Israelis had the
the
Phantoms.
Phantom, the Israeli Phantom, and the Mirages is two. Then to attack them and to have a victory on them, it's a big victory.
Of course. Where did you serve the majority of time in services? Do you recall the first days in service when you first joined the location?
I joined the fighter formation since the early beginning, and I spent till the rank of brigadier general. I spent till I quit. I start to have a commanding post by that time. Then I spent most of my time in the battle formation in the MiG-21 and the Mirage 5.
Yes. Sir, those of us who had the fathers and grandfathers who were in the army, our fathers and grandfathers always used to tell us stories about the army, about their memories in the war in 1967, 1973, the role of the Egyptian army in regaining dignity, not only for Egypt, but for the whole region. We always had stories, so I believe that you can share with us some of those stories.
And my personal
Yes, and I'm sure
capacity,
that you told your children and grandchildren about them.
my personal capacity that in 1967, during a aerial battle between us and the other mirages, the enemy mirages, I was flying as the formator for one of our leaders. Then we went in a combat against the mirages. Then I had a shot down. They succeeded to attack me. Then had a fire in my machine, my MiG-21. Then my leader said, eject or leave the aircraft. But because we don't have this much aircraft, I decided to land this machine, whatever is the price of this. Then, in a very hard condition with fire on on my engines, I start to land this machine, which is now in the panorama.
Wow.
The name is the number is 8040. Then I landed in hard times, and I was decorated by a bravery medal, and President Nasser sent me some rewards, which is by that time very high, which is £10.
That was too much, but the value is
The value is the bravery.
emotional,
The
of
bravery.
course. It's
I am very. Then I had the Wounded in War medal, Wounded in Action. I had it twice. Once in
you were wounded twice.
wounded twice. Once in this time in 1969, and then in 73 war.
1973.
On the other hand, we went in a battle with my colleagues, Samir Aziz, Mikhail, Rida Iskandar, Wasf Sharaklini, myself, Magdiddin Refaat. We went against the Phantoms. And we succeeded, Wasfi mainly and me, we succeeded to shut down one Phantom. Then we were rewarded, and it was a big victory against, while we have the MiG-21, which is less capacity of the Phantoms. And then we were rewarded once more, and again I was rewarded with the duty medal. In the 1973 war, I left the MiG-21. I went to the ground attack of the Mirage 5, and then we start to attack in what we call it the pocket or the Sagra. We attack the Egyptian, the Israeli troops over there, and I had a hit in my machine. Then I had to leave the aircraft, ejected, and landed in our home village. Then I was rewarded once more in that time. It was a hard time, but it has so many funny
Stories, that's
stories.
what I'm talking about.
Well, where you just remember, and I'm very proud of what I did. I'm very proud.
And we are proud too,
Thank you.
Mr. Jenner. We are proud too. Now, we will continue our interview after watching the upcoming report showing the different types of aircraft available here at the Air Force Museum. Air Force Museum is the largest military aviation museum in Egypt, with several types of aircraft on display, as you can see. And some of these aircrafts dated back to October 1973. Let's watch.
Today we are going to be talking about the aircrafts located in the museum. We have the inner section of the museum and the outer section of the museum. The Egyptian Air Force Museum was built in 4 stages. The 4 stages lasted from 1996 to 2016, where it was opened.
This is the Tiger Moth, the oldest plane in the Air Force. The plane, the yellow plane we can see right in front of us is the Gumhuriyya, the first training aircraft Egyptian made. It entered the Egyptian Air Force 1953 and it was serviced out by 2006. We are currently in the Mi-6. This is a transport aircraft, the biggest transport aircraft we have in the Egyptian Air Force Museum. This can carry up to 120 passengers or 2 armored vehicles. It was serviced out 1988, and to this day it's one of the biggest aircrafts we have in the Air Force. This is the F-16. This is a multi-mission fighter. The country of origin is from the United States of America. It's the most advanced plane in the Egyptian Air Force Museum, but it's not the most advanced plane in the Egyptian Air Force.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, sir, I'd like you to brief us on the way the Air Force used to deal with the enemy's aircrafts aiming to neutralize the Egyptian Air Force base and its missile defense shielded during the October War. How did you defend the
In
air
fact,
base?
to have a combined forces battle, which we call it combined forces battle, which is the Army, Navy, and Air Defense and Air Force, then we have a big air defense net all over Egypt and defending all main targets, air bases, air armies, the 2 armies, and we cooperate with the air defense by so many means of cooperation to defend our land.
Yes.
And those enemy aircraft, they have to come all over the Sinai. They have to come from Israel to attack us. Then they are out of their homeland. They come to attack us. We will well prepared to receive them, to intercept them.
How well prepared? What preparation did you take?
Just we have this net of radars which give us idea what's going on. They are coming.
Yes.
We have what we call it air patrolling or air umbrella from our fighters along the borders in very designated areas where we anticipate where the enemy will come, and to have too many tricks to know where they did come, and then to attack them. And the real battle was in October 14, when they attack us with more than 150, 160 aircraft in so many waves, 3 waves, and we waited for them, and we have air victories. We shot down 18 aircraft out of them. 18, and we lost 6 aircraft. 2 of them is short of fuel, not by attack.
Okay.
Those our fighters who were intercepted these machines, because we have a very short endurance in our MiG-21, then they have to land and refuel and go again in the same battle, which lasted for 53 minutes, which is abnormal all over the aerial battle.
Less than an hour.
Less than an hour.
Yes.
And more than any other battle. Normally, the aerial battle don't last more than 5 minutes, 3 minutes. That's all. But to continue attacking us and defending ourselves and attack them once more for 53 minutes, it was a big victory.
Of course.
It's a big victory. Then they failed to achieve their goals, and they returned back
Although
home.
they had more or
They have the Mirages, the Phantom, the Skyhawks.
better aircraft, if we may say.
That's why this is the day of the Air Force. We consider it Air Force Day.
Of course, proudly we do.
Proudly, we have a
Yes, General
few-
Magdiddin, 46 years ago, the October War. Why do you think that we won the war? What made October War so significant and changed the history of Egypt?
in the modern battles. In fact, the war is always there, but I call it battles. Battle of 56, Battle of 60. It's a continuous fighting between us and the others. But in 1973 war, it was the first real victory against them. Big victory. We have so many minor victories in 67, so many sacrifices, so many killed in action
Yes.
of our pioneers and pioneers fighters. But in 1973 war or battle, it was a real victory against the the Israelis. A real victory, which led to the peace treaty.
Yes.
Because I remember I had a lecture or a debate back in the 80s after the peace treaty, and they asked us, "Did you win?" The foreigners. They asked me, "Did you win?" I said, "What is the goal of the war? What is the goal of the battle? We succeeded to defend ourselves, and then we regain our Sinai. Then who is the
And that actually, that is the reason why the October 1973 war changed everything and lead to a global balance of power in the region.
and changed
Egypt
even the
became
tactics.
the regional power.
Even the tactics.
Yes.
Nobody
tactics as
believes.
well.
I can speak in the Air Force widely, but in the ground forces, this soldier with the to face a tank, a heavy tank, and it was a very surprise for them.
Yes.
Because normally a tank will face a tank, but to some soldier digging in the ground and wait for a tank and attack the tank with the RPG, or call it RPG, it was a big victory. It changed to cross the Suez Canal and to destroy Barleaf lines or defense lines. It's
Especially after all the myth around the Barleaf line. That
all
the stories that
the stories and then I remember that in one of the recording of the Israelis Barleaf areas, they are attacking us like Chinese. There are so many, and those people, they come from everywhere in Egypt.
Yes.
We have a 1 million underarm, 1 million to prepare for this,
Of course.
and to stay to last the battle from 6 October till the 28th. Israel cannot stand this.
But Egypt can.
Egypt can. And you know that we are, for now and forever, as Prophet Muhammad said, we will continue to be
The best soldiers
the
on
best
earth.
soul all over
خير
there.
أجناد الأرض.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, General Magdiddin Refaat. A great honor talking to you.
It's my honor.
Always pleased to hear the stories of 1973 war. I take personal pride when I talk to one of the veterans of the war. I'd like to thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, a short break and we'll be right back.